Uh-oh, man down. Can't use that one, touch the ground. Chickens.
5-second rule.
We're not using 5-second rule when we ferment, kiddo. That's yucky. Pickles. Bruschetta is very simple. It has very simple ingredients, and that is why you need to make the best tasting bruschetta. I think that you should use the best quality ingredients. My kids went on a walk with my husband while I was doing this, and they asked me, why are you making these videos? And I told them my main reason was for them. I started to make YouTube videos about what we can and preserve and about the garden for them, so they have it, so they can look back on it. Because when you're a kid, you don't truly understand what your parents are doing or why they're doing it. And so I want these recipes that are our family recipes, some that we have here every day, some that I've been making with my family for a very long time, some new ones that we will grow to love. I want a spot that they can access them. All right. We're gonna get started on our cold brines. So I have all my jars. They are clean and sanitized. I only brought 4 because we're gonna do some small batches today. But these are our cherries. In here we have our carrots, our radishes, we have cauliflower, we have parsley, we have thyme, and we also have some cutting celery. I think those are all the items that we're gonna use today. So first off, we're gonna start with the easy one. We're gonna start with the cherries and the fresh thyme. So my fresh thyme is clean. I'm going to go ahead and layer my cherries and my thyme. And then back here on the stove, I have my cold brine. I did a very basic cold brine recipe, which is just, it's water, vinegar, sugar, salt. So our cold brine recipe that I have already made back here, I used hot, this is cold, so it doesn't need to be hot. I used 3 cups of water and 1 cup of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of salt, and 5 tablespoons of sugar. I do tend to steer away from sugar, but with this recipe, with the cherries and the cauliflower, I thought that the brine needed just a little bit of sweetness. And I did go ahead and use apple cider vinegar. Like I said, this is just a very basic cold brine. You could spice it up with whatever you're feeling, but this is just the extra things that I had today. So go ahead and get started. I do not want to smash my cherries, but I do want to layer them in there with the thyme. And if anybody has a way to quickly pit cherries, because this is what I use, just a cherry pitter, man, it took me a long time. So we're just gonna layer them in there. Sometimes just a quick cold brine, when you have extra vegetables or fruits, it's just fast and it's easy. I do love canning for preserving. I do that as well, but I do that with pickles, beets, tomatoes. I also do pressure canning of green beans and carrots. And if you've ever done any canning, you know that it takes a while. I do want to go ahead and leave a little bit of headspace, even though this is a cold brine and it's going in our refrigerator. We are just going to leave a little bit. So put a little more thyme in there. I'm going to go to the next one. I hope I have enough cherries because I don't want to have to go hit more, but I will. I don't have a cherry tree here. I got them from my father-in-law. So you don't always have to have things here at your house to be able to preserve. My favorite thing to grow is definitely herbs, though, because the cost of those things in the store is outrageous. And this time here, I've grown it for as long as I can remember, but I have a huge patch in multiple different places because I just keep planting it. Right. Now it's packed in there, but it's not squished. There's a difference. I do have a few cherries left, so we can go ahead and eat those. everything to be covered. When things are exposed to oxygen, that is when they go bad. Whoop. This is kombucha. My sister made it. I love to drink it in a champagne glass. It's the middle of the afternoon. I'm not having a glass of champagne just yet. Although you could if you want to. Okay. Pack that down in there. You can use a funnel too. I just didn't. And we're going to set these off to the side. I will put lids on them. And I'll put them in our refrigerator for 2 weeks-ish. And then I'll taste them. Sometimes I get antsy and I taste them before that, but you never know what you're feeling. All right, looking at my cauliflower and all my toppings, I might not have big enough jars, but, oh, and these are garlic scapes. I forgot to mention that. Garlic scapes, they grow on, if you've ever grown garlic, there'll be this flower that forms out the top, and you're supposed to pick them so that your garlic has a bigger bud or a bigger bulb on it. And so I picked these. All right, let's go ahead and cut all of our cabbage, our cauliflower. This bowl over here is for my chickens. I always have a chicken bowl. My chicken love the scraps. They love harvest season because they get so much. All right, so I am going to just cut this into bite-sized pieces. I don't want anything huge. I'm going to get all my cauliflower cut up, and then I'll cut my carrots and my radishes. I'm actually going to go get a bigger jar because I know I do not have enough space. And now that I look at it, I probably don't have enough brine either. So I meant to make extra brine so that I could keep it in my fridge. And that way, the next time I have something that I want to cold brine, it's available. I just put it in a jar, brine it, stick it in the fridge. It makes it very easy, but that's okay. This is cutting celery. It's just the leaves. I forgot that I had actually planted it. I thought it was parsley until I tasted it, and then I remembered. That's why I have to label things sometimes. But you just want the leaves. You don't want the stems. At least I don't want the stems for this recipe. If I was making my bone broth, I would definitely want the stems. And I can keep them, but nothing is wasted when it goes to the chickens because the chickens give me eggs. All right, so we have those two. It is very late in the season for radishes, so they are going to be spicy. But that's okay. I'm just putting a couple in each jar. It's just as like a flavoring. And if you're wondering, what am I going to use this stuff with? How do I use this? Well, the cherries, the cold brine cherries, I am hoping to use them with like sourdough bread, butter, and some very nice cherries on top. I think that would be delicious. I also plan to use them in drinks. I like to drink kombucha and other like mocktail type of drinks in the summer. So that I think is going to make a really great garnish for some of my drinks. Other than that, I just really like to just eat them. I eat a lot of just raw vegetables, so if that's not your thing. And a way that you can use this cold brine vegetable medley that we have here, I'm going to slice the radishes. I love to serve that alongside of, my husband makes an excellent smoked beef roast. They go great with that. You can also use it, anything that's going to be like rich and meaty and full fat and flavor. You can use something that's a little bit sour to go on the side of it, something that's crunchy. So even like a pasta dish, you could serve it with that. You can serve it with any kind of grilled meat, a great T-bone steak it would be delicious with, things like that. Or, like I said, just eat it as a snack. Tuna sandwich with this pickled veg on the side, delicious. There's many times that we make dinner and then our vegetables that we have on the side is pickles and beets. I've had that since I was a kid. Let's see what else we need. We're just gonna kind of dice up. My cutting board's not quite big enough today. We got a lot going on. This is going to make such a beautiful jar. I'm so excited. I don't particularly like to eat the actual flower heads, so if you do, go ahead. So we are going to start with our big jar, and then we'll move to our smaller jar. So we're just going to layer everything in here. Sorry, that's kind of loud. That's how my grandma taught me to do it. These vegetables are harder. They're not quite as tender as our cherries are. So if you see me really pushing them down in there, that's because whenever they start to, in the fridge, react with the brine, they're going to release a little bit of water and they're going to get soft, but then they're going to float. So to save my jar space and save as much space, I really pack those in there. And that goes for anything that's a little bit harder and can take that. My cherries, on the other hand, I did not want to damage them. So if you're wondering what the difference is. Right. All right, let's see if we have enough brine. Start with the big one. See how beautiful that is? All those colors. It just brightens up a plate whenever you serve it. Now, I don't have enough, so I will make more, but I won't bore you with that. And that's it. These go in the refrigerator. Put a lid on them, and there you have cold brine cauliflower with spring vegetables, and you have cherries and thyme.
Hi, and welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're making dill pickles. I'm going to be using a variety of different sized pickles that I have from the garden. These have already been washed and prepared. We're going to cut off this end, and if there's a blossom on the other end, we're going to cut that off as well. And then I'm going to pack them into my jars, and I'm going to put them in the water bath canner. I will only be doing 7 jars because my water bath canner only fits 7 jars, and I don't want to make more than that. Pickles this size, I'm going to cut into fourths. Pickles this size, I'm going to cut in half. And pickles this size, I'm going to leave whole. I like a variety of sized pickles in my jars, and also these are my kids' favorites. So I always make sure to have a lot of those for them. I have 7 jars here. My water bath canner holds 7 jars. So I don't really want to do more than that. I only want to do 7 jars. However, I have about 10 pounds of pickles here. So that tells me that I will have probably about 10 jars. I will pick out the pickles that I like the best. These are good. This pickle right here, it's good. It fills the jar really well. But our favorite kind of pickle to eat here in our house is this style, where it's like you can keep it whole and it's easy to snack on. The crunch that a whole pickle has versus a quarter of a pickle it's really great, and it'll last much longer in the jar. So that's what we like to do. And if you see any pickles along the way that you don't think are the best, don't use them. That's fine. This is yours. This pickle I'll save if I really need it. This one, same way. It's a little big, especially when I have all of these really nice sized ones here. So I'm going to finish cutting all of these pickles, and then we are going to pack our jars. I find that pickles are not the easiest thing to can. They are not a beginner-friendly recipe, especially a dill pickle. You can do this. I have been canning pickles for as long as I can remember, and this is still a recipe that I get nervous about every year, because if you overcook your pickles, they're mushy and nobody wants to eat them. And then all of that work that you did is just out the window. So I have only started making these pickles on my own probably in the last 5 years or so. Before that, I always made them with my parents. Making pickles has always been kind of a family affair. As a kid, obviously, I hated it. As an adult, I find it fun. At my parents', it will be an all-day affair. We make jars and jars and jars. My parents are there, my grandparents are there, and it's a lot of fun to do that. It is exhausting. So as I can here at my house, I do tend to can in smaller batches. I can in just a couple hours instead of taking an entire Saturday to can, which I don't typically have time for. So I do can in smaller batches, and sometimes I can in big batches. It just kind of depends on the time that I have available. It is my preference, though, to can in just small batches, manageable batches. Preserving can get very overwhelming. You can get yourself in the weeds pretty fast with it. Don't preserve things that your family isn't going to eat. Of course, it's fun to preserve things that you think are fun or you want to try a new recipe. Absolutely, go for it. If your family doesn't like to eat turnips, don't make canned turnips. I did that a few years ago. And while they were good, the only person that would eat them was me. And I can only eat so many canned turnips. So obviously they went bad. There's other things that I have experimented with like a tomato jam or things like salsas. And you try out a new recipe and just make a small batch, see if you like them, or if you know that you're going to like it, just go for a big batch. I've done that as well. This is dill. And the only reason I grow dill here at my house is for dill pickles. I do like it fresh in the springtime, but not as much as I like it for dill pickles. This is the stage that I prefer my dill in. It is green. The seed has just started. I also use the dill leaves in earlier recipes. I will also use dill seed as the season gets on. But I just think there's something so fun about using the green dill seed because you can't find this in a store. This is only something you're going to get if you have your pickles here at your house. What we're going to do is I'm just going to take a hunk. Might be a little much. About like this much. We're going to put it in our jar. 1 clove of garlic. 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Then I put my pickles in here. We're going to stack our pickles in. It is very important on how you stack your pickle in. It is just as important as how long you cook your pickle. You want to fit as many pickles as you can in here so that you use less brine, you use less jar space, you use less shelf space, your pickles aren't floating in water, they're nicely submerged. I'm going to fill this jar up until there is 1 inch of head space. And then I'm going to set it over there and wait for our hot brine. This is I don't use a pickling spice. I use a very simple brine. I use water, garlic, and salt. That's it. I let the pickles or the cucumbers and the dill and the garlic be what flavors these pickles. Probably going to wake Dakota up, but... Our water is ready. I did start that a while ago so that it would be nice and hot. And these little ones are fun to be able to put in there up around the top. They're always everyone's favorite whenever you get to them. That jar's packed in there pretty tight. Should be good to go. All right, let's do that 6 more times. I do pack my pickles so that they are on the side. It just makes it easier to stick these pickles in there. I do like to have the skins facing out. I will explain that whenever I go to cook them and why I do that. We have 4 more to do. I do want to say this is not the ball pickling recipe. If you are new to canning, I highly recommend you get that cookbook. Follow the instructions. They have already checked those recipes because, as you know, water bath canning can be a little bit, I don't want to say dangerous, but if you don't know what you're doing, botulism is what we're worried about. So I would highly recommend getting that ball book and following that because they've already tested the pH of their recipes. They have tested the process in their recipes, and these are at home recipes. This is just a recipe that my family has been making. This has never been tested with a pH, and it's also never made anyone sick. But it's always better to be safe than sorry. When you are picking your cucumbers to make pickles, you want ones that are fresh. You want fresh cucumbers. You don't want to leave them in your fridge and when they're about to go bad, decide that you want to can them. Those are not going to make good pickles. Those are going to get mushy and those are going to be gross. You want a pickling cucumber or a gherkin cucumber, or you can make it out of English cucumbers or something like that if you want, but they're just not going to be quite as crispy. So your cucumbers, you want really high quality. We're going to wash them and then we cut them up like this, and then we pack them in our jars. You think that you might not need to wash them? They're on a trellis. They're clean. They're beautiful. Go for it. But you should see what my sink looked like when I just washed them off. Just a little bit. You just gotta wash them off a little bit, and that's okay. They might look a little funny, misshapen. This is what homegrown vegetables look like, and that's good. The vegetables that we buy in the store that are all the exact same size, those aren't real. I mean, they are real, but you know what I mean. The brine that we'll be using today is water, vinegar, and pickling salt is what I use. You can use whatever salt that you would like to use. You want to make sure before we put them in the jars, that brine needs to be boiling hot. So it needs to go boiling hot from the stove and into the jars. You put your lid on and then you put them in your water bath. And you're going to cook them in your water bath for about 9 to 10 minutes. Now, your water bath needs to be hot when you put your jars in. Your brine needs to be hot. And that way, whenever you don't have to cook your pickles quite as long to get a nice seal on the jar. And so your pickles stay nice and crisp, because that's what we're going for. We want crispy pickles. We don't want mushy pickles. We want crispy pickles. From last year, I have about 4 jars still unopened. And you can taste the difference between a new pickle and one that's been in my cabinet for 4 years. One that's been in my cabinet for 1 year. That's just my 2 cents on cucumbers. My brine is not quite hot yet, so in the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit more about what products we're using here. These jars, I didn't mention it earlier, but they were cleaned and sanitized before we got started. I will be using a ball lid. You can also use a cur lid. There's all kinds of different canning lids out there. I prefer the ball when I make pickles because they are not in that hot water bath very long, and the ball pickles just seem to seal a little bit better than other ones that I've used before. This is what I normally water bath in and pressure cook in, just because I know exactly how many jars fit in here and it's easy for me. I do like to do this part outside, but it is 105 degrees outside today, so we're not going out there. But my brine is over here, and as soon as that gets boiling hot, I will put it over the pickles, and then we will get this started. If you have done no canning before, if this is the first canning recipe that you are watching, this is just a simple canning kit that I got off of Amazon, and that way it fits right in the jar. Whenever you're canning things like beets and things that are kind of messy, having a wider opening is really helpful. Pickles here, it's just going to help me ladle in the brine and it's less messy. I did go ahead and also put my seals into hot water to loosen up that wax. Like I said, these are not in that hot water bath for very long, so I want it to seal pretty easily. You want to leave 1 inch of headspace in these jars. And as I'm pouring this hot brine in there, I can already tell that the color is changing. The brine that I made should cover my 7 quarts if I packed my pickles in there tight enough. We will see. Looky there, I had enough brine. Now you can keep your brine, you don't have to throw it away, but you do have to reheat it if you're not doing a quick pickle. The next step we are going to do is we are going to put our seals on all of them and make sure that your top is also clear. I should have wiped them off. And then our rings, you want to make sure that's in the middle. Just hand tight, not super tight, just a little bit. This is now good and hot again. I'm going to turn it down just ever so slightly. You don't want it to be like a forceful boil. And if you look at the color of these pickles as we are putting them in there, they will change. And the color changing is the important part. Alexa, set a timer for 8 minutes. When I take these jars out of the water bath, I'm going to set them here on this towel where I will leave them for 24 hours. This is a jar from last year. Just wanted to show you what a proper seal sounds like whenever you go to take your jar off. I just use a fork. You can use whatever you'd like, but it has a nice seal on it. It pops right off. That's how you know it's sealed whenever you go to open it. If you go to open a jar and it does not have that seal, and it is something that's been sitting in a cabinet, it has not sealed. Do not eat it. Anything. That's anything that you can. If it doesn't pop whenever you open it, don't eat it. This is one of those pickles from last year I was talking about, one of the little guys, my kids' favorite. It still has a very nice crunch to it. I bet most people would not know that I canned that last year. That's still very nice. And this one, I put some green beans in it last year. Must have been towards the end of the season when I just had a ton. Your jar should be submerged in your water bath. Do not let the top of your jar come out of the water. What I'm doing here is I am checking the color of the pickles. They're changing. They're turning from that vibrant green color to a darker green color. They're not quite there yet. Also, I see some things floating. I'm wondering if I had a jar bust. This is the hard part. In the bottom of this pressure canner, it does have a rack to keep the jars a little bit off of the bottom so that the high heat here isn't coming into contact with the jars. All right, it's been 9 minutes. Now, In those 9 minutes, though, I did have a jar break. It must have had a crack or something along those lines, but my middle jar that I put in here, it did break. So I only have 6 now, but that's okay. It happens. Perfect. See the color changing? Right here, it's a lighter color. Up here, it's a darker color, but it is 90% that darker color. That's how you know they're done. We're going to take them out. I think they all sealed. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like this recipe, email us and I'll send you a PDF. Hi, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are going to make a fermented barrel pickle. But before that, I need to sort through all of this produce, decide what is still good and what I'm going to do with it all, because unfortunately I've been holding on to some of it for far too long and it has started to go bad, you know, things like that. It's past its prime. So I need to go through it and I need to either preserve it, make a plan for it, or feed it to my chickens. And so that's what we're gonna do. First step, we are going to, this basil here, I know exactly what I'm gonna do with it. I'm going to make a basil salt. So kind of like an herb salt, but with basil. So we're gonna do that. This basil here is going to be dried for tea. And then these pickles are obviously going for our barrel pickles. Corn, I think we're gonna have tonight when we have tacos. This zucchini, it's the time of year when zucchini is left at your doorstep, whether you want it or not. This zucchini, which I did want, is actually going for, I'm going to make lasagna, and it's also going to be for a summer frittata that is just delicious. So we're gonna do that. And these tomatoes is what I've been holding on to probably the longest. And some of them are bad. I'm looking at them, some of them are bad. This white powder that you see on them is diatomaceous earth. That is just because they had aphids or something at one point. Helps keep the bugs away. And so we're going to just core those and put them in the freezer because I don't have time to can them right now. I believe that I'm gonna make a pizza sauce out of them. That's what we need in our pantry the most, but I'm not ready to tackle that right now. So that's what we're gonna do. And the other cool thing that I picked out this morning was my Armenian cucumber. The only one I got, the first one I got. I have no idea what to do with it now though, so we'll see. All right, so we are gonna get these cucumbers put in the sink so we can get them cleaned, and I'm going to start coring those tomatoes. While my helper is cleaning my cucumbers, I am going to show you how I make my barrel pickles. This is my fermentation crock. It is pretty handy. I just got it this year though. You can also just make them in a large jar or a small jar depending on how many cucumbers you have. I have quite a few, so I'm going to go ahead and make them in this crock because I have the room for it. So the recipe that I use is very simple. It uses a quart of water with 3 teaspoons of salt. So that's 1 quart of water and 3 teaspoons of salt. So in this is 2 quarts. So I'm gonna go ahead and use 6 teaspoons of salt. And I'll just fill that up with water, dissolve the salt, and then as I stack my cucumbers, they're not pickles yet, they're cucumbers. I'm gonna stack my cucumbers in here. I'm also going to add dill. I don't have any fresh dill, like the green dill this time, but I do have fresh dill seeds, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I have fresh dill seed. I found some garlic still out in the garden, so we're gonna put some garlic in there, peppercorns, and I have a few grape leaves. It's supposed to help keep the pickles crispy, but this is all that, this is what I had. I made a crock already once this year, and this is all that's left. There's 1 pickle left in here, so I don't really have to worry about them being all that crispy for long because they don't last very long around here. We're gonna fill that up, and then as I fill it up, I'm gonna put it under my sink. It is kind of a weird spot, but it's nice and cold under there. And I'm gonna let it ferment for 3 to 5 days. depending on how sour I want it. I'll check on it depending on the temperature. You want to put it someplace that's dark and about 70 to 75 degrees. And underneath my sink is a perfect place for that because I can check on it daily and it's here in the kitchen. So we're going to keep cleaning and I'll show you when I stack them all in there. When I put my pickle in here, yeah, I'll cut that off. I cut off the blossom end and I cut off the stem. This one is a little big. We're gonna try it anyways. This one, I don't think it's gonna work. Let's cut it in half. Let's see what's in it. Oh no, way too seedy. You want a mushy pickle? Pickle something like that. No, thank you. Not here, not in this house.
Yuck bucket.
Yuck bucket. Chickens are gonna be happy, huh? The reason this will probably be the last pickle, summer pickle harvest that I have this year, I'll do some fall pickles as well, is because they're starting to look like this. Do you see how they're misshapen? They're having water stress. I water them, but the pickles just do not like it this hot. Today it's 98 degrees outside, so they have stopped producing flowers. They've stopped producing fruit because it's just too hot. So we will go ahead and take those out of the garden and replant in the fall when it's a little bit cooler. Things like cucumbers, they're starting to stop producing, but tomatoes, okra, that is for us, that's just now producing. The harvest baskets are always changing. That one is large, but see the seeds are a lot smaller. Let's see if I can compare the two for you. That right there. Mushy pickle? Not mushy pickle.
And
I didn't slingshot anything out of your hand.
this.
Oh, that little guy. Uh-oh, man down. Can't use that one, touch the ground. Chickens.
5-second rule.
We're not using 5-second roll when we ferment,
Yeah.
kiddo. That's yucky.
Babies.
Pickles,
Pickles. 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 Pickles.
garlic, black peppercorns.
Now the can.
The only grape leaves I could find. Teeny tiny little ones. Oh well.
Wait, Mom, is it on?
More dill, more dill. Layer that in there. We're also gonna add some of the peppers I have over here. Can you wash these for me?
Oh yeah.
Thanks. I think we might end up with a full crock.
Pickle time.
For the peppers, I'm just gonna slice them in half. These are some of our trick 2 peppers. They smell,
Twist you.
they smell just like a jalapeno, but they have 0 spice. It really tricks the senses. It's kind of fun. All right, so we have our pickles in here. It is about 3/4 of the way full. Inside of here, we have layered our cucumbers, our peppercorns, our garlic, and our dill. We're gonna put just a little bit more on dill on top, and that's about it. If I was planning correctly, I would also be putting a grape leaf on top of here, but I didn't. And all I have is little baby grape leaves because my grape patch is 1 stem, so. But like I said, the grape leaves are to help try to keep them crispy, and I don't think I have that problem, so. My salt and water mixture here, and we're just gonna dump it in. This probably is not enough. You can do some science and some calculations and measure the pickles and measure the salts and all of that. There's all kinds of fermentation calculators out there, but I have been doing this recipe for a while, and
Very long time.
and it's been fine. For your water, you should be using a filtered water, an unchlorinated water, or water that you allowed to sit out for 24 hours because the chemicals in treated water will affect your fermented pickles. So Oh, and my pickles are starting to rise. Let's go a little bit more. You want your pickles, I say pickles. I guess that's the country in me. I mean cucumbers, but they turn into pickles, but we just call them all pickles. All right, it is all submerged. I will take my weights.
And push them down.
Put that one in there. This one in here. And when these are finished fermenting, you can transfer them to a jar like this, another jar for your refrigerator. If you have the refrigerator space, you can go ahead and store them in a crock. If you have extra crocks, it's up to you. We did go ahead and put a cucumber in just to see what would happen, but it keeps coming out from under the weight. A big grape leaf on top also helps keep all of the little pieces submerged that get on top of the weight. So. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take clean water and we put it along the rim.
Why you do that one?
And you put this lid on top of it. You do that because it helps seal the yucky stuff from the air out and keeps all the good stuff inside your crock. Bruschetta is very simple. It has very simple ingredients, and that is why you need to make the best tasting bruschetta. I think that you should use the best quality ingredients that you can. So, garden fresh basil and fresh tomatoes. This one's got a split down the middle, so we are definitely going to use that because it's not going to last long on the counter. I have balsamic vinegar and I have olive oil. And you can also use fresh garlic. I don't currently have any, so I'll use garlic powder. I have fresh ground black pepper and salt. Those are the ingredients. There it is. I've already ground the black pepper, so we are going to cut up the tomatoes. These are the ones that we just picked out of the garden. They are fresh and delicious. You cut the tomato into small pieces. You can use whatever kind of tomato that you have available. A really delicious heirloom variety would be great. Here in my house, I use what I have. They are very juicy. We won't use that part of it because I don't want my bruschetta super runny because I don't have a delicious bread to go with it tonight. Bruschetta is such a simple dish. You have to like the ingredients that you're putting into it. There is no hiding anything in this dish. So, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, some pepper, the salt that I lost again. Use whatever kind of salt that you like. A delicious basil salt would also be good in this, more like a finishing salt. You can smell it. And you can also put onions in it if you want, but we're not going to. It's date night. Nobody needs onions in their bruschetta. And we are going to, my husband brought me a bacon appetizer. We are going to put a huge amount of basil. That's how I measure this, huge amount. It's gonna be about yay big. Recipes are guidelines. You make them how you want to make them. If you like something, add more. If you don't like something, don't add it. My husband back here doesn't believe that. He thinks recipes should be followed to the T. All right, roll these up. Then we're gonna just let this marinate until we eat dinner. My garden might have let me down this summer, but I'm so blessed that I can make fresh bruschetta with fresh ingredients right from my garden. I'm not crying. Well, I am crying, but it's only because I love beets so much. Hi, welcome to my kitchen. Today, we're making pickled beets. This is one of my favorite and my kids' favorite in the winter when we are serving those rich, flavorful stews. Right now, it's not my favorite because it is messy, but it needs to be done. I don't want these beets to go to waste. I took all of the effort into growing them. I want to put all of the effort into preserving them. We're going to start with 14 pounds of beets here. These are very firm beets. I've already gone through. There's some of them that I did not refrigerate properly and they're kind of soft. We won't be using those. You want to start with a product that is firm to make the best quality pickled beets that you can. The first step in this process is to take these beets, put them in this pot, and we're going to boil them on our outside cooker because I don't want to heat up my house any more than I have to. And we're going to cook them until the skins fall off. Let's get to work. I don't want those. When I put these beets in the refrigerator, I had every intention to come back fairly quickly and can them right away. But sometimes life gets in the way. That's all right. As you can tell, these beets are all different sizes. If these beets were a little bit bigger, like this one right here, it's a pretty big size. This would hold in my crisper in a plastic bag or in a container for a while. But we're just gonna go ahead and preserve them all because I have already started another round of winter beets. So that's what, I won't need these because I will have beets in the garden. So I can free up some of my refrigerator space because my husband is starting to get annoyed with all of the produce that we have in the refrigerator. I should probably be separating these in different sizes, small ones and large ones, so that because they cook at different rates, but instead I will just fish them out as I need to. This is the messiest part. These beets are, I've already sprayed them off, but they're still kind of, they got dirt on them and stuff like that. And then when we put them in this big pot and we fill them with water and then we're gonna take them outside. And then when we peel these beets, they're messy. You're gonna be purple. And that's why I'm wearing black today because it is very, very messy. It does wash off. It's not like it's forever staining or anything like that, but you wouldn't wanna wear your nice Sunday whites or anything like that when you're doing this.
Whoa.
While our beets are boiling outside, we are going to start our brine back here. You want your brine to be nice and hot, so we have that turned on, and we're also gonna cut up our onions because I like to layer lots of onions in with each of my beets. So I'll cut these onions and talk to you about the brine. Whew. All right, sorry. These onions are way stronger than I was expecting. I'm not crying. Well, I am crying, but it's only because I love beets so much. The recipe for the brine that I use is 1 cup of water, 1 cup of vinegar, half a cup of sugar, and about a teaspoon of salt. The recipe that I originally started with was equal parts of water, sugar, and vinegar. But we eat these beets so much in the wintertime that I wanted to cut down on the sugar a little bit. I have tried to go less, as little as 2 tablespoons per cup of water and vinegar, and it just wasn't, it was at that point it wasn't like the sweet pickled beet that me and my family like. So it wasn't for us. So the half cup is pretty good for us. We really like that one. You can go more towards the original recipe and do the equal parts, or you could go even less. So it's up to you. That's what's great about canning and preserving and cooking at home. You get to do what you want to do. And that's why I absolutely love it. There's so many different ways to cook and to can, and I love all of them. One of my hobbies is to collect cookbooks. My husband makes fun of me, but I read cookbooks like my kids read children's books. Cookbooks, gardening books, I love them. I have really old cookbooks that I find fascinating to look at the old ingredients that they put in things and even to try to use some of those old ingredients. Now there's the ones that use Crisco, and I have a Jello cookbook that it just specializes in all Jello. That one's pretty fun. It's kind of gross, but it's pretty fun to look at. So I put about half an onion per quart of beets. So we're gonna put beets, onions, beets, onions, beets, onions. We're gonna layer them in our jars, and then we're gonna top them with our brine, and then we're gonna water bath them for 20 minutes. It is pretty simple. After you get the beets peeled and cut up, the recipe is very simple. But that first step of getting the beets peeled, it's messy and time consuming, but don't let that deter you from making pickled beets, because they're delicious. In the wintertime, when you're having that hearty stew or even on a salad, we really enjoy pickled beets. However, if your kids eat too many of them, just know when they go to the bathroom, it will turn things different colors. So don't go to the ER if you remember that your kids have eaten, or you have eaten, a lot of these pickled beets because they're just so delicious, and you use the restroom and it's funny colors. It could be the beets. Word to the wise. I did a soil test. I am so excited. It's the first soil test that I've ever done in my garden. So I did the whole process of getting my soil tested. Because this year I felt like they were green and lush and they were beautiful, but they were just kind of lacking. You know, they didn't produce really well, and I know we got a lot of rain and it's a lot of different things, but either way, I got my soil tested. It was a very easy process, and I'm waiting on the results, so I'll share those with you and how I did that. Almost ready. This one, yep. Cool it off a little bit. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. See how the skin just peels right off of there? The next step that we have is to peel all of these beets. I will take the tops off just a little bit, and then they should. Some of them are being kind of dramatic, but you just peels right off. Cut off anything that you don't want. As you're putting them in this bowl, this is our clean bowl, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut them to the size that I like. If they're small enough, we love to leave them whole. This is about half of the beets that I had in that big pan, because I wanted my water to stay cool. And this part takes a while. Cut off the top, make sure all the debris is off. Drop it a few times. They are not mushy. They're not hard. If you've ever sliced a beet, you know it's hard. So they slice pretty easily. And then when we put them in, we take them inside and we're gonna pack them in our jars. And then we put our brine on top. Some people will tell you to put them in your brine and cook them some more, but I don't find it necessary. Now these beets are warm, so don't burn yourself. If they're really big, we cut them in half. At this stage, they are edible. If you like beets, you'll probably like them at this stage. Earthy, wonderful. I might have to put that bowl on the ground. It's kind of, when you only make these once a year, it's kind of sometimes hard to remember your process. Beets are another one of those recipes that I have been making with my family for as long as I can remember. We used to make so many of them. We had those big totes. We had totes full of beets. We don't eat that many, so I don't need that many. See, this one's kind of hard to peel, so I'm just going to use my knife. You can use the back of it so you don't take off too much of your beet and just kind of peel it. And that's from it being in the refrigerator. Not quite as fresh. You do kind of want the beets all about the same size. They can, just a little bit more evenly that way. That way you don't, if you have a bunch of little bitty small pieces and a bunch of big pieces, you're gonna have uneven cooking. My kids went on a walk with my husband while I was doing this. and they asked me, why are you making these videos? And I told them my main reason was for them. I started to make YouTube videos about what we can and preserve and about the garden for them, so they have it, so they can look back on it. Because when you're a kid, you don't truly like understand what your parents are doing or why they're doing it. And so I want these recipes that are our family recipes, some that we have here every day, some that I've been making with my family for a very long time, some new ones that we will grow to love. I want a spot that they can access them. And also, I find it wonderful to be able to share the garden and these fun recipes with everyone. It doesn't, I think I've said it before, but you don't have to have a huge homestead, can and preserve. You can go to the farmer's market and you can have a small garden and still preserve. Gentle. I'm not working on that one. There you go. All of our beets have been peeled and sliced. Now it's time to stuff our jars. Our brine is over here heating up because I want a very hot brine when I pour it into the jars. And then this is our water bath canner. With our 14 pounds of beets, we were able to clean 24 cups of beets. And you do want to make sure these are packed in here pretty tight because they will release some liquid and I don't want them floating. And you want them below the neck of the jar. Don't move the camera every time I move something. All of our jars have been packed with beets to the neck of the jar. And now we are going to fill each of them up with brine. And again, you only want the brine to cover the product and go to about the neck of the jar. And with my 24 cups of beets, I end up having 7 quarts and 1 pint. They're all full, and we have a nice cotton cloth, and we are going to wipe the rim of every one of the jars before we put a seal on it. I have my water bath canner right here, and it is boiling. I wiped the rim of these jars so that there is a nice seal between my seal and the glass jar. And then you put the ring on, just finger tight. If there is any debris in between the seal and the rim of the jar, it will not seal properly. And when I say the rim of the jar, I mean this very top part of the jar. And we are going to water bath can them for 20 minutes. We will let these jars sit on the counter for about 24 hours, and then we will remove the rings and put them in the pantry. I leave them in the pantry for about 2 weeks before I open and enjoy them. They are best served cold out of the refrigerator, but you can serve them however you want. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.